What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. One of my favorite consoles of all time is the original PlayStation. This machine introduced me to so many different ideas, like video games scaring me, or really good writing in Final Fantasies. And I've noticed that over the course of the last couple of years, PlayStation is now experimenting with having these PS1 classics show up in some form on the PlayStation 4. There's stuff like the Mega Man Collection, the Crash Bandicoot Trilogy, and now even weird solo releases like Final Fantasy IX, and it's really got my brain moving and thinking about other amazing gems of the past that need to come forward to modern hardware. So these are my picks of the top 10 awesome PS1 games we need on PlayStation 4. Number 10. Twisted Metal 3. Let's start this video off with a real sense of chaotic style by diving into this universe. Each of the Twisted Metal games is based on the straightforward concept of a chaotic tournament where the last man standing gets any dream they can possibly think of granted. And of course, if you have some sort of tournament like that, it's gonna attract some psychopaths. Cause winning is not just a matter of being the best racer or being able to drive well, it's about murdering each and every one of your opponents one by one until you and you alone remain. Twisted Metal 3 always shine the brightest in my memories because each of the different places we can fight is so different, and the cast of characters are downright demented. Number 9. Brave Fencer Musashi. It seems like a majority of games get worse with time, not dramatically so, but just slightly. The graphics age badly, or you notice that the writing doesn't hold up as well in the current tense. One exception to that is a game that I think seems to get better as time goes on, which is Brave Fencer Musashi. This is something I beat as a small kid, but now, going back to as an adult, I realize that there's a lot of really clever jokes that are tucked into every single moment. Really good puns, and on top of that, some really good combat. This is one of those games where you just want to run around and hack stuff up, whether it's to solve a puzzle or slash a boss. If you haven't tried it before, it's something that I think needs to come back just so it finally gets the attention it deserves. Number 8. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. After the complete dumpster fire that was Pro Skater 5 came out a couple years ago, this franchise sort of left a hole inside me. It made me want to go back to its roots and see why it got so famous in the first place. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is so tight. It makes it where every time you want to do one of these impossible stunts you can. Grinding, flying up ramps, or just going to the next tournament. All of it functions in such a unique way that sort of makes you feel like a superhero on a skateboard, and it's something that no other franchise has been able to replicate. So please, Sony, bring us back the true skater. Number 7. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. How many times in your life have you gone into an adventure totally blind, not knowing what to expect, and come out the other side very happy with what you saw? That is the absolute privilege I had with Soul Reaver. I had heard nothing about it and hadn't even seen a screenshot before I randomly found a copy back on the PlayStation 1, but I was instantly sucked into this weird, creepy world that has such interesting rules to it. You get sweet swords, solve time travel puzzles, and even get to try and drink the blood of the highest vampires in the land in your quest to get some sort of balance to this universe once again. Legacy of Kain has obviously always been a good series, but it's here where I think that they truly peaked. Number 6. Final Fantasy Tactics. Recently, Square Enix has been working hard to try and bring forward a lot of their classic RPGs. That's why we've suddenly seen things like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII getting a giant resurgence. But this is one that I think has the biggest cult following. Final Fantasy Tactics is certainly a slower style of gameplay, but it's so addictive despite that. Every single battle can last 30 minutes to an hour, but in that time you're going to be trying to outmaneuver your foes, level up, and use the most delicate of tactical abilities to make sure you don't run out of magic or run out of freaking items to res your people and inevitably lose. I've always enjoyed Final Fantasy Tactics, but really I kind of want to see it come again just so it has a chance to grow an all-new fan base. Number 5. Ape Escape. There's a term that's thrown around a lot in game development, which is task loop. This is basically their way of saying, what are you going to be doing in the game in a single playthrough over and over again, and can you make that fun? For Ape Escape, the answer to that question is a giant yes. Essentially, every level is you being dropped in and trying to search out a bunch of different little apes, and once you do, you have to capture them with your net. But doing this is a little bit more intricate because you need to constantly get new items and new toys to try and find them, from a hula hoop that can make you fly, boots that make you run faster, or a remote control car so you can press buttons. Each one of these things feels so tiny on their own, but they fit together into that gameplay loop to create something that is so uniquely fun that I kept coming back to it and wanted to start a new file just to see it all again, purely for the enjoyment of it. Number 4. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Something that greatly helped the PlayStation 1 become a huge success back in the day was its 3D graphics. This console from the ground up was designed to have really expansive maps and 3D rendering for the first time. But here is a 2D masterpiece, and one that gets tons of credit for how groundbreaking it was. Symphony of the Night is a Castlevania game, but one that really encourages exploration in a way that previous games hadn't done. You sort of get to go anywhere you want, and as long as you have the item to access stuff, you can really kind of go wherever you see fit. I really think that this is a game that manages to bottle up that true sense of awe that keeps you in such wonder, and that's part of the reason I think that it would be such a perfect fit for the PS4. It's aged perfectly. Number 3. Grandia. Whenever it comes to talking about underrated hidden gem series that I think don't get nearly enough attention, I gotta bring up Grandia. I love each one of them so much because they're so strangely designed. It almost seems like it's made by people who never had seen an RPG before it, which makes them all really stand out in how brilliantly they're put together. And you know what really frustrates me? You can't play them at all on the PlayStation 4. Not even with their backwards compatibility system that allows you to play PS2 games. They did not put a single PlayStation 2 Grandia on their console, so at the very least, give us the original masterpiece of Grandia. Number 2. Metal Gear Solid. Okay, let's be serious for a second. Do I honestly even need to explain why this game is so awesome? I mean, come on, it's Metal Gear Solid, one of the most legendary games ever. The reason I'm putting this on the list, though, is that I think that so much of the stuff like the sneaking and the fact that I fight a boss that's just a dude in a tank, it's riveting, it's engaging, but more than anything else, it's just a game that cannot exist anywhere but on the original PlayStation. Every time I boot this game up, I'm taken on such a wild ride to go through all these different locations and battle all these really strange foes. And on top of that, it just functions so great. I love the fact that I can sneak around and choke people and get all sorts of secret items. Since we know for a fact that we're not going to be getting any new MGS that's as good as this, Konami, at least let us play this on modern hardware. Number 1. Silent Hill. Ever since I was a little kid, I've been completely obsessed with horror in general. Scary movies, big monsters, and all sorts of games that try and get in my head and give me nightmares. And I've always enjoyed Silent Hill because it's something that tries to go in a new direction. It's not necessarily about trying to throw a giant beast in your path to slow you down or frighten you with something like the last boss in Resident Evil 2. Instead, it wants to try and stick in the back of your mind and mess with you psychologically. As you wander through the streets of Silent Hill looking for your lost daughter and that next weapon to protect yourself, you keep being thrown into a different variation of the light world or the dark world. And I love this because it makes it where you feel like an unsuspecting victim. While you may have chosen to play this game, what happens next is completely up to this universe. The first Silent Hill is so demented because I truly believe that they had no intentions of ever making a sequel, so they threw in every single single messed up idea they could possibly dream of. And now it's a game that sustains itself through the ages. And for that reason, I awarded this my pick as the #1 PlayStation 1 game I would love to see on PS4. Did your favorite game not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. You know what's funny is, every single thing on this list today, I actually own physically, complete in box, in mint condition, except for Brave Fencer Musashi. That is the very last game that I need for my physical PS1 collection. I own them all digitally, but it drives me nuts that I just can't seem to stumble upon that one little sword slashing experience, no matter how hard I look. Oh, hi. I'm just working on the next video. If you want to see what it is, go ahead and click this button and you can subscribe. Also, if you click these video links, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. Now I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for you to subscribe. Oh, I guess I could put on these giant glasses. I literally found these on a roller coaster.